Hey everybody, welcome. I think this is day 10 of these stories that we've been telling you of the Stones of Remembrance. Now, I mentioned this past Sunday that God answers prayers, right? And I told you about Nancy and those ladies praying for that office, the pot house, and everybody laughed, but it really was one of those things where it's like, what else can we pray for, kind of a thing. We have prayed through so many problems. We've prayed ourselves out of so much trouble. We've prayed ourselves for so many miracles that God has done. And we have a saying right here, God can do anything. And I know that's like, well, duh, God can do anything. Let me just tell you something, okay? This is crazy. One of my favorite stories has to do with this. So it's January of 2002. We've been in the building now for 2 years. He's already done the miracle of the children's building that I told you about on Sunday. And we only have about, I don't know, say 11 or 12 youth. 6th through 12th grade, we have about 12 youth. That's like 2 per grade. That's like a youth, like it's a youth group, but it's more like a youth small group, right? So we start praying. And it's so hard to have like critical mass. It's so hard to invite your friend to, hey, come to my youth group. And, they get to the youth group, but like 5 out of the 12 aren't here this Wednesday night. So it's like, this is 7 people, and I'm like, I'm the 8th one. And you feel like, you feel like this is the size of a volleyball team. This is the size of a baseball team. This isn't like a youth group kind of a thing. It's so hard to grow. So we start praying, and get this. Okay, this is the words that Nancy came up with. And she said, I'm going to pray that God just poofs us in a youth group. Poofs. That's a spiritual term, I'm sure. It's like the Greek word for poof, the Hebrew word for poof. It's like you can't pray for God to just poof in a youth group, can you? Can you pray? Can you pray God poofs in a youth group? That's what we did. We prayed that God would poof in a youth group. And I'm sitting in my office in January of 2002, and I see a white minivan pull in with this very Pittsburgh Steeler flag flying in the window. And I look out the window, I'm like, who's pulling in with a Steeler flag? And into my office and into my life walks someone who's become a lifelong friend. Pastor Doug Holliday came in and sat on my couch. And he said, listen, you don't probably remember me, but when we moved here, my wife Jennifer and our kids, we spent the summer living in your wife's grandparents' house, the Warfels' house. I'm like, oh my goodness, I do remember you. The missionary. And like, yep, missionary with Campus Crusade was who he was with at the time. He says, well, here's why I'm here. He said, we've been part of a church in Lake Mary, Bridgeway, I think it was called. And sometimes I call it Bridgewater. I know that's not true. It's Bridgeway. And he says, and that church is kind of dissolving. And we're looking for a place to attend as a family, and really several families. And I lead, and then you're not going to believe what he said. I lead a youth group that meets in their facilities, this church's facilities, every week on like a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or something. We were wondering is there any way we could work it out where we could come here and bring this youth group that I'm with. And I'm like, we've been praying for God to poof in a youth group. And he's like, really? And I said, oh yeah. So I tell him, we don't have critical mass. I said, can you guys come on Wednesday? And so we hit it off right away. And it was like, we had just gone to a conference out in Texas. And and the guy was talking about how God blesses. And sometimes, God blesses, like the God wink for him was Skittles. And he kind of envisioned that sometimes God, gives us just an extra blessing, sweet like Skittles. I don't know. I'm not into Skittles. And he was telling his story about how he felt so overblessed. It was like raining Skittles. So the whole time we're out in Texas and I'm hearing this story, I had just had this conversation with Doug Holliday just days before we had to go to Texas for this church growth conference, this creative church conference at Fellowship Church. And I was like, I feel like God has often answered these crazy outlandish prayers for us when we've had the guts we have prayed for some big things. When you start praying, God, please poof us in a youth group, I have people who are like, y'all are crazy. And that's exactly what God did. And not only did God poof in a youth group, but you think about Doug's going to be speaking this coming Sunday. You think about what we would have missed out on if we had not started praying for God to poof in a youth group. We didn't just get poof in a youth group. We poofed in Doug and Jennifer. I mean, God did. But through that answered prayer, Doug and Jennifer Holiday came, and then Open Door Haiti, U.S. was born out of that. And all of the 20-year history that we've had now with Open Door Haiti, God can do anything. And when I say God can do anything, man, when he puts it on your heart to pray for something big, like we're praying for even bigger things now, God's going to do what he's going to do. He can do anything. I'll see you tomorrow.